In the heart of Little Egypt, where fertile farmland meets the crossroads of commerce, we find the unassuming town of Marion, Illinois. It all began with a 20-acre donated plot of land by William and Bethany Benson in 1839. A simple platted square designed to serve as the seat for the newly formed Williamson County. And for decades, the story of Marion was one of a small, quiet community tucked away from the frantic pace of industrial progress. Residents often endured slow, arduous travel, relying on oxen, horses, and dirt roads that became impassable in the slightest of rain. In those early decades before the railroad, homes in the area were scarce, often converted log cabins or simple wooden structures. Other than the homes that began to cluster around the town square, neighbors tended to be few and far between. Around 1853, the town saw the construction of the first brick home with the addition of the Willis Allen home on South Market Street. This more permanent form of construction signaled the town's shift from pioneer survival to community building. On January 15, 1872, the silence of the Marion air was broken by the whistle of the Carbondale and Shawneetown Railroad, a moment that forever altered the destiny of the southern Illinois town. The tracks of the Carbondale and Shawneetown Railroad brought immediate industrial hope to the town, providing a faster, more reliable way to move coal, timber, and agricultural products, while enabling merchants to stock their shelves with goods from far-flung locations, something the early residents had only imagined. Barely 2 years after the railroad arrived, the city of Marion was granted its city charter in April of 1873, signaling a shift from rural village to a bustling municipality. This newfound industrial connection sparked a surge in growth, pushing residential development beyond the area around the town square and into the surrounding farmland. The 1870s saw a rise in street development driven by forward-thinking early town trustee, or city councilman as he would be called today, Martin Robertson, who advocated for naming streets after U.S. presidents, marking the first expansion of the town's footprint since that original 1839 plat establishing the town and its first streets. Between 1880 and the turn of the century, Marion saw steady, modest growth thanks to the transformation and development of the local coal mine industry. As Marion grew, the landscape shifted from scattered, isolated farms to more organized residential additions. Residents began constructing homes in a mixture of architectural styles in neighborhoods that were stretching out in all directions from the town square, such as the homes clustered around the intersection of North Market and Calvert Street. With the land acquired by Napoleon Bonaparte Calvert, aka Bone, around 1850, by 1860, Bone had been responsible for at least 3 additions to the city. Coupled with his building skills, Bone became one of Marion's first residential developers, contributing as many as 35 homes to the growing town between 1860 and his passing in 1882 at the age of 60. Fueled by what seemed to be an insatiable demand for Southern Illinois coal, Marion's population would more than triple, from around 1,100 citizens at the turn of the century to more than 4,500 inhabitants by the 1920s. And it was that steady population influx that turned formerly sleepy dirt roads into bustling residential construction zones. Right around 1905, as Marion began its transformation from a quiet village into a regional industrial hub, A.E. Harper arrived from Chicago to help light the way. A key figure in procuring coal mine properties for the steel industry, Harper recognized that with industrial growth came a desperate need for modern infrastructure and housing. As president of the Marion Electric Light and Water Company, Mr. Harper didn't just bring modern amenities to the citizens of Marion, he set his sights on the land itself. Through his firm, the early Marion Transplant acquired several parcels of open farmland along what was then the dirt road we know as East Boulevard Street. Leaving a lasting plotted mark on the map of Marion, Mr. Harper's legacy is rooted in transforming raw Southern Illinois farmland into organized residential neighborhoods, such as the one we see today along the street bearing his name. Fueled by the country's rapid industrial growth and an overly aggressive speculative market, Marion's housing boom of the 1920s saw high-value homes being built alongside rows of modest bungalows. The decade saw the local Marion Building and Loan Association thriving alongside landowners, developers, and contractors alike. Early in 1929, the housing market was still high with optimism and expanding property values. However, this optimism turned to despair before the year was through. With factories canceling orders for coal, the onset of the Great Depression seemed to be aimed at the Southern Illinois coal fields first. As the national economy collapsed, so did the local housing market, leading to a massive surplus of vacant homes, affecting every neighborhood in town. In a bold move, local financial institutions merged their repossessed properties, opting to demolish more than 400 of the least desirable in an effort to stabilize the local market. The radical decision helped, but no one could prepare for the lasting effects the sustained economic depression would have on the country. It would take a full decade before a slow, cautious recovery in residential building would be seen again in Marion. Emerging from the rubble of the Great Depression, a quiet, determined transformation had taken root. With 1936 marking the final year of decline of new residential construction, recovery began slowly in 1937, eventually gaining momentum through private and federal initiatives. It would be visionaries like Lawrence Bainbridge who would first recognize the post-Depression housing shortage and take decisive action. Utilizing the remaining undeveloped lots of the now defunct Marion Heights residential development and subsequent additions to the south, The area has historically been referred to as the Bainbridge Edition. In the post-World War II era, the neighborhood was a testament to the town's quiet residential growth. Today, the neighborhood is still quiet and it's still welcoming, with a uniquely distinctive residential layout perfect for young families. In the late 1960s, 70s, and into the early 1980s, Marion's residential expansion was like a patchwork of neighborhoods associated with various developers. From Bainbridge and Castellano in the south to Smith in the northeast or Parish Park in the southeast, Marion's residential expansion reflected many factors, from financial to location, but the options were growing. With homeowners wanting to balance rural living with in-town amenities, coupled with the expanded role of the automobile, new neighborhoods were pushing even further into the adjoining countryside. In the earliest stages of planning for a new large residential development west of town along Old Route 13, one friend said, "Well, it is west of town and there's nothing out there but air, so you could call it Western Air." Today, Western Air and adjoining Moore Park consists of approximately 180 homes that have consistently been some of the most sought-after real estate in Marion, even back when the neighborhood was considered way out of town. Over the past 35 plus years, Marion has evolved from a quiet southern Illinois town into a bustling regional hub. With growth driven by Marion's strategic location at the I-57 and Route 13 intersection, the city has seen a mix of new residential subdivisions, apartment developments, and more recently some significant mixed-use renovations in the city's historic core. Today, the story of Marion's residential growth is not just about building houses and subdivisions, it's about building community. Such is the case with the developer Yellow Door. Capitalizing on the new thriving downtown arts and entertainment scene, Yellow Door is turning long-forgotten plots of land into a vibe that invites people to stay, play, and live in the newly energized Tower Square Arts District. With continued investments and growing commercial opportunities, there are valiant efforts being directed toward building a brighter future for the crossroads of Little Egypt. But only time will tell what the future Marion skyline might look like. This is Sean Vincelette, and this has been one of the many stories of Marion, Illinois.